Contrary to what you'll hear from most doctors, Hashimoto's is absolutely a disease that can be managed and even reversed. And one of the best ways to do this is through the foods that you put into your mouth, aka your diet. There is a big difference between curing Hashimoto's and putting it into remission. Putting your disease into remission means that all traces of the disease state are gone. The big caveat is that the disease can still come back, which is why cure is probably not the best term. Definitions aside, let's talk about what's more important. How likely are you to reverse your disease with dietary changes alone? First things first, what can you expect by changing your diet? I wish I could tell you that changing your diet and eating more healthy foods would be enough for every single person listening to this to put your disease into remission, but I'd be lying if I did. While it is true that every single person that actively improves their diet will see some positive benefits, the degree of those benefits will vary from person to person. But I can tell you that there are definitely people out there who have put their disease into remission just by changing their diet and without any other interventions. People that I have personally treated and others that I have heard stories about. Those who are able to do this generally have a few things in common. The first is that they have a very mild disease state. The second is that their antibodies are not sky high at the time of diagnosis. I'm talking a number less than about 600 or 700. Third is that they're early on in their disease state. In other words, they haven't had their condition for 20 years. And four, they don't have any other chronic medical conditions requiring medications. If you want to put numbers to it, I'd say this is possible for about 10% of people. If you fit into that category, then great. But if you're like most people who don't worry, because there are still plenty of things that you can do to impact how you feel. To do that, let's craft the perfect diet for somebody who has Hashimoto's. Choosing the right diet is more than just cutting out processed foods and eating more whole foods, though doing both of these things will help. It's more about looking closely at how your food choices impact both thyroid function and your immune system. As a patient with Hashimoto's, you must do both if you want any chance of putting your disease into remission. Optimizing your thyroid will help you feel better, but it will do nothing to protect your thyroid gland from future damage from your immune system. This means your diet must have an element of inflammation reduction. And hands down, the best way to do this is by avoiding certain foods and making sure that you eat others. If you want to lower inflammation, then make sure you avoid these food groups. And first on that list is any food that contains gluten. This is just in the beginning though. Research has shown that patients with Hashimoto's are much more likely to have problems with gluten compared to the average person. This can come as either non-celiac gluten sensitivity or as full-blown celiac disease. And it's for this reason that I often recommend patients that are newly diagnosed with Hashimoto's avoid gluten for at least 2 months. You may not need to be gluten-free forever, but going gluten-free forces you to avoid a lot of unhealthy foods, which allows you to clean up your diet in the process. And given that there's evidence to suggest that gluten can actually be pro-inflammatory in the gut, you'll probably notice some improvement there as you give it up. Second on the avoid list is dairy. Dairy is a huge problem for about 70% of people that have Hashimoto's, and most patients find significant relief when they avoid it. One study evaluated the rate of lactose intolerance among patients with Hashimoto's and found it to be as high as 75%. It was also found in that same study that patients who removed lactose from their diet saw a significant drop in their TSH. On top of the milk sugars, of which lactose is one, dairy also contains proteins that can cause problems as well. The two most notable include casein and whey. These proteins seem to interact with the immune system by triggering an IgA response. This response damages the gut lining and leads to increased intestinal permeability. Most patients with Hashimoto's will find that they do much better by completely avoiding both milk and dairy. Number 3 on the avoid list is any ultra-processed food. Calling them food here is generous because these compounds have been altered so much that they barely resemble this description. Among processed food, ultra-processed foods are the worst. These are foods that you would never be able to create on your own in your own kitchen. Not only will their consumption cause inflammation across your entire body, they are also flush with calories and sodium and depleted in the very micronutrients that your thyroid needs to function. You couldn't think of a worse food to eat if you have Hashimoto's. They may taste good, yes, but you pay the price for their consumption both in the short term and in the long term. Number 4 on the avoid list is any refined or processed sugar. This would include things like table sugar, brown sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. These are mostly found in processed foods, so if you avoid those, you'll avoid these. They are problematic because they increase the insulin response, promote inflammation, and lead to weight gain. On top of avoiding these foods, you'll want to make sure that other foods enter your diet on a consistent basis. And number one on that list are omega-3 fatty acids. Long-chain fatty acids like DHA and EPA send anti-inflammatory signals throughout the entire body when consumed. They also get incorporated into the cell membranes of your immune cells, helping them to do their job. EPA and DHA are found in fish and seafood, which is why you'll see me frequently recommend that patients with thyroid problems eat fish at least twice per week. Number two on the list of foods to eat are cold-pressed cooking oils. The oils that you cook with have a profound impact on your health and your thyroid due to their impact on the inflammatory cascade. The most anti-inflammatory of the bunch is without a doubt extra virgin olive oil. Known for its high amounts of monounsaturated fatty acids and antioxidants, its consumption can reduce inflammation, promote better heart health, and lower cholesterol. If you want to use other cooking oils, you can, but make sure to stay away from highly processed oils and stick to anything that is cold pressed. Number three on the list of foods to eat are fruit and veggies. Both contain loads of fiber, polyphenols, and antioxidants that improve your gut health and reduce inflammation. For better thyroid function, aim to get at least 3 to 5 servings of fruit and veggies each and every day. Your next step is to make sure that you eat foods to help promote better thyroid function to make up for what your body can't produce. It's great to protect your thyroid gland by reducing inflammation, but more can and should be done. To do that, you want to make sure you're sending the right signals to your thyroid by focusing on both the quality and the quantity of the food that you eat. Critical to thyroid function, you must make sure you are not sending the signal to your body that you are in a state of starvation. Doing so will result in decreased thyroid function in the form of low T3. Thyroid patients are guilty of doing this when they restrict their calories when they try to lose weight. But by doing so, they're sending the message to the body and the thyroid to conserve energy because food is scarce. Your thyroid is a major regulator of energy production in the body. So when this message gets sent, your body will reduce thyroid function globally. The solution is to stop restricting your calories. If you do need to lose weight, then your preferred method of calorie restriction should be fasting. When done correctly, fasting does not have the same negative impact on thyroid function like daily chronic calorie restriction. Eating enough solves the quantity problem, but what about the quality problem? To do that, you need to pay attention to the macromolecule composition of your diet. In other words, how much protein, fat, and carbohydrates are you eating each and every day? We don't have to take a deep dive into biochemistry to understand how this works. Carbohydrates represent the major substrate that your body uses for energy production. So it should come as no surprise that your thyroid likes it when you eat carbs. They may not be technically essential for your health, but they are absolutely required for optimal thyroid function. And unfortunately, most thyroid patients are actively trying to avoid carbohydrates because they're concerned that they will lead to weight gain or insulin resistance. This is definitely a problem with refined and processed sources of carbohydrates, but not with whole food sources of carbohydrates. Your thyroid will function better when you provide it with 100 grams of whole food carbohydrates each day in the form of fruits, fruit juices, vegetables, and even starchy carbs. These will not make you fat and your thyroid will love them. The next most important macromolecule is protein. Eating enough protein sends the signal to your thyroid that you have what you need to create and support your muscle mass. This is huge because muscle mass represents a major site of thyroid hormone action. It's very common for patients with Hashimoto's thyroiditis to hamstring their metabolism because they haven't reached their potential when it comes to muscle mass. You simply will not be able to grow or sustain your muscle mass if you don't eat enough protein. But if you do, you can expect a better thyroid function, a higher metabolism, and a leaner physique. The magic number for patients with Hashimoto's is 100 grams of high quality protein each day, split into at least 3 meals of 30 grams of protein or more. Animal protein is considered to be high quality and superior to plant protein due to its higher bioavailability, superior amino acid composition, and calorie budget. You can get your protein from plants, but you'll have to eat more, which means more calories and often more fat. The final macromolecule is fat, but it plays a more important role in regulating inflammation, which we've already discussed. Let's wrap this all up into an easy set of recommendations. Number 1, eat to reduce inflammation. Number 2, eat to support your thyroid. Number 3, get at least 100 grams of protein each day. Number 4, get at least 100 grams of carbohydrates each day. Number 5, eat fish at least twice per week and cook with extra virgin olive oil. Number 6, make sure you get your fruit and veggies in each and every day. With these guidelines, you can craft the perfect diet for Hashimoto's that works for you. And you can do so knowing that both your thyroid and immune system will be optimized in the process. If you want to see how more structured diets compared to my recommendations here, then I'd recommend checking out this video next.